Moving right along through the narrative chronology of the Star Wars films now brings us to the best of the Disney Star Wars films by all accounts. And that would be Rogue One. And it's clear at this point that the standalone films, they should have kept going with those, because apparently they can do those better. Because I just did the Solo review, look back at, and it only suffered for the sins of Last Jedi. And but even Force Awakens was initially sort of kind of accepted. Compared to those two, it too falls very, very, very short. Not as short as Last Jedi. Boy, it takes a real effort to beat the nastiness and awfulness of Last Jedi, but anyway, it's just not that great. So Rogue One was the first of the standalone films that was announced, and of course it would deal with the mission to find the secret plans of the Death Star and hand it over to the Rebel Alliance so that they could find some means to exploit a weakness within the Death Star and destroy it. The only real new twist to that was that the flaw was intentionally placed. Now, a lot of you were upset about that. I don't think it disrupts the story so severely. It just, I mean, the idea that the Empire was so stupid as to leave a flaw like that and never catch it, because they didn't know what it was. They just knew the plans were stolen. This shows a bit more urgency to it, and that somebody deliberately sabotaged the Death Star. And so there you go. And so it kind of works to the benefit of the story, I thought. Anyway, I mean, ultimately it's unnecessary again. But overall, as a film unto itself, it is better than the Solo one. But it's another heist in space type thing. And that's what you got here. So there's some departures from Star Wars films, and we see that in the standalones. I mean, I think there was some discussion about doing a crawler at the beginning of them, and they decided to abandon it because it's not part of an ongoing, saga, if you will. And I suspect Solo was going to become that, but certainly Rogue One wasn't, except that, again, like Solo, Rogue One, there's a whole other version of Rogue One out there. And so just demonstrating the problems that apparently Disney had in making these films, where you basically shoot a film, it's terrible, and then you have to shoot it all over again. Not just reshoots for this and that. No, an entirely new film shot. And that's a lot of money. So apparently Rogue One was no different. The sad thing is that there weren't massive reshoots for Force Awakens and Last Jedi. Last Jedi should be entirely reshot. Maybe even change the title, but no, the standalones were given more care and attention than the movies that are supposed to be a part of the big saga that was the foundation of the whole thing. So go figure. But so here we have, of course, a female heroine here. Or you can't say, because feminine words are terrible for feminism, apparently. So she's the hero of the film. So only masculine terms are good. Which, yeah, go figure. I don't get it. Well, I do. It's just stupidity. But nevertheless, yes, Jyn Erso, the character, is introduced here. And another departure is that we have a time jump within the movie. So it opens, Jyn Erso is a little girl. She's hiding with her mother and father. And turns out her father was a scientist working on the Death Star project. And then he fled and was hiding out on a little farm. But then his old buddy, Critic, shows up and finds him and says, you got to come back. We've hit a snag, and you're the one who can figure it out, and all this sort of thing. And you're going to force him to come back. And, of course, there's a shootout with Galen Erso's wife. She tries to fight and all this stuff. And meanwhile, little Jyn witnesses all this. It's really horrible. And but there was an escape plan in a place for her to hide. She does, and then a friend of theirs, played by Forrest Whitaker, who turns out to be a leader of a rebel group. And remember, it was always the Rebel Alliance. That meant there were several rebellions throughout the galaxy opposing the Empire, and there was an alliance between them. And some were a little more rough than others. And this guy, Saul Guerrero, was no different. He was he apparently murdered people and all kinds of things. And but he's the one who rescued Jenna Erso and took her under his wing. Well, we jump ahead. She's an adult, and that's the departure from the usual storytelling for Star Wars. Probably could have used that in Last Jedi. Yeah, just jump ahead. Just forget about all that. And just say that Luke trained Rey if you didn't want to. But here we see more care and development for the female character of Jyn. She has more development than they ever gave Rey, and they did it all within a short amount of time in one film. And spoiler, she dies at the end. So this is it, you know. And yet Rey, their big supposedly new star for Star Wars and hero and all that, never gets a story. There's one more film to come, but will she get it? Well, even if she does, it's far too late. So we do get some development here for her. She has a rough life. She becomes a criminal, being an outlaw because of the situation she's in. And she's just pretty much on her own. She doesn't trust anybody. But the rebellion wants her because they realize who she really is, and they want to get to her father and ultimately kill him because they figure they can stop him because his knowledge would develop the Death Star. Little do they know it's already too late to do that. But nevertheless, they keep trying to do it. And at some point, I sort of thought, you do realize killing him now is a waste of time, but they try to do it. And this sets her at odds with our other hero, Cassian Andor, who right off the bat is already in love with her. And his robot K2. Now K2, that robot steals the show. He's the real star here, and it's too bad he's gone because that was a great character there and all that. So there's its own cast of characters. It's also a much darker view of Star Wars. But then again, if you look for it, there's elements in the original, even in the original film. I mean, good Lord, when Luke's adoptive parents are murdered, that's pretty dark, and then that's his moment of when he has to go on his hero's journey and all that. And but I guess because he had the scene where Cassian had to kill a guy who was an informant because he was just, he was going to give them up. He was too panicky and scared and all that. So he has to put him down because the stormtroopers are coming. Meanwhile, continuing with the problem for stormtroopers, they just can't seem to see very well out of those suits, And I don't know what the suits are good for. Just about anything can penetrate them. So that continues. We do get a new force of I guess they were called the Death Troopers, and they're all in black. They seem to do a lot better, so I guess they're more of the elite squad of troopers. And so we get stuff like that. Plus, some ship design is a little better. So it just all around, there was a better approach to this film than to the main ones, and it's rather odd. I don't know how that happens, but it did. And some care to try to make it fit within the time frame, because it's right before New Hope happens, and so we get little Easter eggs of characters appearing, and even resurrecting Peter Cushing in the form of Moff Tarkin, which, it's still a little off there, but it's a better job they did on him than they did on Princess Leia at the end there. It just didn't quite look quite right, but you understood it was necessary because it's the send-off, and it ends right before New Hope begins. So that's how that works out. And but then the main great sweet spot, of course, was Darth Vader. Well, we finally get to see his castle. It appears he's decided to take up residence on Mustafar, which just goes to show more evidence of the struggle in there, and that there's still some Anakin in him, and that he punishes himself by staying in that god-awful place. so, so anyway, you get Castle Vader, and then his later appearance trying to get back the plans, and he just wipes out those rebels. It's just great. And a nice cherry on top for Rogue One at the end there. But the cast are performed well, and they're credible characters within the plot of the story, and it just works so much. It's strange. It's hard to believe that it's made by the same company in comparison to how badly they treated the Saga chapter films. And so there's a lot about Jyn Erso here, and some were saying that she's another Mary Sue, but no. There is a scene where she takes out a bunch of stormtroopers, and it's hard to believe. I mean, she's this skinny, supermodel looking girl, and it just no. When she shoots them, that's one thing, but just beating them with a stick, and maybe one, but they'd have wiped her out. So that was a bit much, but it's all very brief and everything. But her character and the coldness of it's understandable because of the story they gave her, and the terrible thing of what happened to her mother, and her father's taken away, and all this stuff, and the life she's led in that criminal world. It's understandable about her attitude and her coldness and not wanting to be involved with anybody, even though there's an immediate attraction between her and Cassian. And of course, the argument they have with each other over his mission to kill her father, and he doesn't do it, but still she's mad at him because she wants to be mad because she's hurting from the grief she had to watch her father die in the explosion. And it all fits in with it, and they both present their cases, and they both have the means by why they're at where they are. So it flows within the story, and she does break. When she sees her father in the hologram, it is very powerful. She just collapses with the tears and all that stuff, and that's the moment there, and she performs it well, and it's believable that there's an actual fully realized character there, and again, all in one film. And somehow they couldn't do it for poor Rey. So all that's good stuff. The extra little fan pleasing, it's fan service. Yeah, it is. You might want to use some of that. Is in there, and it doesn't attack what was established. I mean, people were upset about the explanation of the flaw, and I don't think it does. In fact, I think it kind of helps, but it's very minor and minimal. It just doesn't do that the way that the Last Jedi does to the entirety of the franchise. So it's just good, and easily the best compared to what else they gave you. But it's also a pretty damn good film in and of its own. The music, Giacchino is pretty good. He certainly channels Williams in there, and even comes up with some cool little Empire sounding themes for Krennic there, and it all works out, and it's just a well done package. It could have used some light here and there, that sort of thing, but jokes here and there. Just didn't have the massive amount of cheese that these other films do. So I don't know. It just seemed to hit it right. There's other little elements about the what are they? Jedi devotees, I suppose, because of the holy city for the Jedi there that was all devastated after the Clone Wars. And the two guys who are supposed to be, one of them has lost his faith, the other one still believes, and he's blind. You have to conclude that the blind guy really does have some amount of force ability, because there's no way he could do what he does without it. But he's not full-blown Jedi. He doesn't fade away when he dies and all that stuff. And also the insinuation, was there a romantic relationship between the two of them? He could have said they were family, but either way, it doesn't really matter. Certainly, they loved each other, and the other guy is devastated by the loss, and fueled by his grief and his restored faith in the Force, he charges out against the troopers to his ultimate fate. So all the cast, they die off, but they all die heroes, and ultimately so does Jen Erso and Cassian, which is why I really don't like the idea that they're going to give a TV series to the Cassian character. That just takes away from his moment here. I know it's a prequel series, obviously, but yeah. And apparently in the one of them, I don't know if there were more, there was alternate endings where they survived and all this sort of thing. No, it needs to go this way. So all around, a good little film, and the best, easily the best of what they've got. And so, yeah, that's bad. It's all very sad and unnecessary. You could have done more in this element that is, tries at least, gives a story, rounds out the characters, gives them development, all of that, and keeps the little additions to the saga and what have you at a minimum. And that's all you needed to do. And more to the point, it's something. Whereas Last Jedi is nothing, and it seems to be proud of the fact that it's nothing. And it's just, it's incredible. And who saw that? I don't know what the original was that made the decision of, holy crap, we got to reshoot this, and you don't reshoot Last Jedi. It's just astounding. I don't know how that happened, and it's always going to be a bit of a mystery, I suppose. But well, there you go. So that pretty much concludes the chronology of new films placed in the chronology between the prequels and the trilogy, the original trilogy, at least for now. So the next will be looking back at, yes, A New Hope, now with this new backstory leading up to it and all that. So we'll get to that at some point. Anyway, thank you for watching and listening. Say, why not like and subscribe, and check out the link description below. That'll take you to my mini stores that have plenty of goodies for you.